So let's think about the nature of God from a Christian point of view. What are Christian beliefs about what God is like? Sometimes the word characteristics is used to describe the elements of the Christian God, and I have put together a mnemonic called Boomgetic, which will help you remember 12 different ways of thinking about God. In the exam, it's important to mention as many as you can. So for instance, if it was a D part question worth 6 marks, you would need to explain 6 different elements of what the God is like. So let's begin with Boomgetic. The B stands for benevolent, or all good and all loving. The O, omnipotent, which means all powerful, and the second O is omniscient, all knowing. The M stands for metaphysical, which is beyond space and time. That's Boom. The J stands for God being the ultimate judge of everyone's moral behavior. Remember, moral means being good. The E is for eternal, God being eternal and having no beginning and no end. The T stands for transcendent, which means everywhere but nowhere. The second T stands for God is a Trinity. Traditionally, people will refer to God as a Trinity, and this stands for God being the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. In the context of the Trinity, the Father is the power that rewards and then punishes people. Son is Jesus, an example of how to behave and to cope with suffering through forgiveness and love. And the important term there is altruism. Jesus sacrificed himself for the rest of humanity's sins, and altruism means suffering for others. The final part of the Trinity is Holy Spirit. We've already spoken about that. That's how God communes or becomes at one with human beings. The I stands for immanent, which means up close and personal. And then finally, God is the creator. Remember, at the start of Genesis in the Old Testament, God creates the earth in 6 days, and there is a purpose or a plan behind God's creation which is perfect, and in the Old Testament it doesn't need to be changed. So that's Boomgetic: benevolent, omniscient, omnipotent, metaphysical, judge, eternal, transcendent, Trinity, immanent, and creator. In addition to that, there are 8 traditional Christian symbols that you might find in a church or in somebody's home. 6 of them begin with C. So for instance, there's the cross. The cross symbolizes the glory of God, the fall, and how Jesus rose from the dead. You'd see this above an altar in a church, and it's associated with the resurrection and ascension of Jesus. There's the crown of thorns. This symbolizes how Jesus suffered for everyone's sins. There's the crook, which is a traditional shepherd's tool, and symbolizes how God is a shepherd who will look after his people. There's the chalice. Now this is a really important Christian symbol. It stands for how Christians can commune with God. The chalice itself is a cup, and it is traditional for fundamentalist or Roman Catholic Christians to celebrate communing with God by the priest blessing some wine, and then for the congregation to drink from the chalice, and in that drinking they become at one with God. The blessed wine becomes symbolic of the blood that Jesus shed when he was crucified. There's the candle. This, because it can be lit and shines, symbolizes hope. There's also a crown, which symbolizes God as the king. The 2 remaining symbols are the dove and Alpha and Omega. The dove stands for the Holy Spirit, and Alpha and Omega are the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet. These stand for God being the beginning and the end of everything. So there they are, the 8 symbols of a Christian God: crown of thorns, cross, crook, chalice, candle, crown, dove, Alpha and Omega. So all of these parts of the nature of God, Boomgetic, and those 8 symbols might be different ways that Christians would speak about what God is like and how they would come to know God. We're now going to move on to the second part of this module, which is belief in God. Essentially what we're talking about is, why do Christians believe in God? Thomas Aquinas, who was a Christian monk, came up with 5 separate reasons about why Christians would have faith in God. 4 of them are rational or reasoned proofs for the existence of God, and one of them is the argument from experience or revelation. The way to remember these is through the acronym Tommy McTow. The McTow stands for motion, causation, teleological, ontological, and experience. M for motion, C for causation, T for teleological, O for ontological, and E for experience.